Hello, dear traveler, and welcome to Noktey's Tavern. Pull up a chair. Most people comparing Pokemon Pokopia to World of Warcraft are getting this completely wrong. Because if you think the connection is just both have creatures, you're already lost. That is surface level. That is lazy. And that is exactly how you end up sounding like you have not actually played either one. The real reason Pokopia fans might love WoW is much more interesting. It is not raids. It is not sweaty endgame. I'm talking about UM+. It is not some spreadsheet goblin screaming about optimal rotations. It is pet battles. And once you add housing, professions, collecting, and the right mindset, WoW stops looking like a giant stress machine and starts looking more like a world you can actually live in. That is the real comparison. And it works way better than most people think, but only if you understand what Pokopia is actually doing first. Because Pokopia is not just cute Pokemon game, for those of you who've actually gotten a Switch 2. You play as a Ditto in human form. You wake up in a withered world. Professor Tangrowth guides you around. You befriend many Pokemon. You learn useful moves from them like Leafage, Rock Smash, Surf, and Glide. I take this as someone who hasn't played it but has been watching every single streamer do so and learn everything about it. You gather materials, you craft, you cook, you decorate, you rebuild the world around you. That is the appeal. Not conquest, restoration. That word is everything. Because the reason people fall for Pokopia is that the world responds to gentle, cozy efforts. You are not just winning in it, you are softening it. You are making it livable. You are turning a broken place into somewhere warm that more Pokemon can come and enjoy with you. And this is where WoW people mess up the comparison immediately. They hear World of Warcraft and they start telling you the loudest part of the game. Raids, dungeons, tier list, damage meters, mythic pressure, 37 keybinds, and a man named Bone Vex calling you useless because you blinked left instead of right. That is one version of WoW. It is not the version that matters here, because if somebody likes Pokopia, what they usually want is not pressure. They want routine, companionship, collection, place, a world that feels better because they keep coming back to it. And that is why the first real bridge into WoW is pet battles. This is the part almost everybody undersells. And it is the one of the biggest reasons this comparison actually works. Because pet battles are not just cute side feature you forget exist after 10 minutes. They're a whole creature collection game living inside of WoW. You collect battle pets. You build teams of 3. Different pet families have strengths and weaknesses. They level up with you. They have abilities. You can battle wild pets out in the wild. You can battle trainers. You can slowly build a little roster that feels like your roster. That matters, because Pokopia is not just about looking at creatures. It is about befriending them, learning from them, and making them part of your daily life. And pet battles are one of the few places in WoW where your creature collection actually becomes play. That is key. Your collection is not just sitting in a menu like a tax paperwork with faces. It becomes active. It becomes usable. It becomes personal. So, if I were pitching WoW to a Pokopia fan, I would not begin with the endgame gets good later. No, I would say, start with pets. Catch a few you genuinely like, learn how pet families work, build a little team, fight a few wild pets, battle a few trainers, pick a theme for your collection. Maybe you want forest creatures, maybe tiny dragons, maybe spooky little horrors, maybe beach animals, maybe mechanical weirdos, maybe just small creatures with the energy of somebody who would absolutely steal a sandwich and never apologize. That is when the magic starts. Because the second your pet collection has personality, WoW stops feeling like a giant machine and starts feeling like a life you are curating. And that is very, very close to the emotional appeal of Pokopia. But pet battles are only the first layer. The next layer is how you build your character. And this is where people quietly ruin their fun. Themselves. They make a character like they are filling out tax forms. Boring. What is the best class? What is the strongest spec? What level's fastest? What is the most meta right now? Those are not evil questions. They are just the wrong questions for this style of player like me, Noktey. The better question is, who do I want to be in this world every day? That is a huge difference. Because Pokopia is not about becoming the most efficient organism in the ecosystem. It is about building a life in a place that slowly becomes yours. So your WoW character should feel inhabitable. Maybe you are a druid who gathers herbs and wanders through green zones like an unpaid forest cryptid. Maybe you are a Pandaren who cooks fishes and builds a whole identity around calm routines and little companions. Maybe you're a hunter because you genuinely want that creature-friendly outdoor energy. Maybe you are a mage with perfect transmog and a future house that looks like you have opinions about curtains. Good ones. That is the right mindset to play like this cozy style that I play with. Because the second your character feels like someone who lives in Azeroth instead of someone strip mining it for rewards, the whole game changes tone. And that is not even the biggest shift. Housing changes everything. This is where the comparison gets much stronger than it would have a few years ago. Because once a game gives you a home, every single other system starts meaning more. And WoW finally has that angle in a real way. With housing and neighborhoods in Midnight, WoW is not just giving players another feature, it is giving them an anchor. That is massive. Because now your routine has a center. Now your collection has context. Now your weird decorative item is not just random junk. Now your transmog is not just armor. Not just a wanderer through the desert. He has a place to stay. Now your pets are not just menu entries. Now your play session is not just chasing bars and numbers. Now you are tending to a corner of a world. That is the feeling Pokopia players already understand instinctively. A home changes what progress means. It turns progress into belonging. And once that clicks, a lot of systems in WoW that used to feel disconnected suddenly start working together. Your pet collection matters more because it fits the life you are building. Your mount collection matters more because movement becomes part of your identity. Your transmog matters more because style becomes part of your home and routine. And daily play matters more because it is feeding a place, not just a number. That is the secret. The system were always there in pieces. Housing pulls them all together. And right after that comes another thing Pokopia fans will understand immediately. Professions. People really do not talk enough about how much professions can help casual players feel rooted in a game world. Because Pokopia is built around gathering and making. You pick things up and turn them into comfort. You create little loops of usefulness. You improve the place by interacting with it gently and repeatedly. WoW absolutely supports that. Herbalism, mining, fishing, cooking, crafting. All of that can become part of a slow, satisfying routine if you stop measuring every system only by whether it is worth it. That word has done terrible things to cozy play, because worth it usually means, does this maximize output? But Pokopia-minded players are asking something much smarter. Does this make the world feel more like mine? That is why fishing can matter. That is why cooking can matter. That is why gathering materials can matter. These are not just mechanics, they are rituals. And rituals are what make a game world feel personal. And there is movement. This sounds small. It is not. One of the reasons Pokopia feels good is that movement is tied to utility, friendship, and world access. You learn from Pokemon, you gain new ways to interact with the environment, the world opens, the map becomes friendlier. WoW can create similar feeling if you let it. Not in exactly the same way, but emotionally, yes. Mounts matter, flight matters, favorite routes matter. Favorite zones matter. Your Hearthstone matters. Where you choose to spend time matters. A lot of people move through MMOs like they are fleeing a building. Pokopia players tend to enjoy the world itself. That is why, if you want WoW to feel more like Pokopia, You should stop treating travel like dead space between tasks. Pick cities you love. Choose zones you actually enjoy. Use mounts that match your character's vibe. Set your hearth somewhere that feels right. And your heart. Make movement part of the pleasure, not just the commute. That alone changes the tone more than people expect. And here's another place people mess this up. Quests. Most players treat quests like irritating errands standing between them and the real game. Because in Pokopia, requests are part of rebuilding. They are not just busy work. They are part of making the world feel inhabited and cared for. That is exactly how casual WoW questing should be approached. If you want the same energy, not as chores, as neighbor requests. Who needs help here? What is happening in this area? What gets a little better because I showed up? That sounds simple. It is not. That is the difference between living in a world and vacuuming rewards out of it. And now we get to the biggest part of all, the return loop. This is the heart of the whole comparison. Pokopia works because it is not built around panic, it is built around return. You come back, you check one thing, you gather a few things, you make little progress, you decorate, you do a request, you build a little more warmth into the space. Then you leave feeling better than when you arrived. That is the version of WoW more people should be playing. Not the burnout loop. Not the one more thing trap. Not the I have been online for 4 hours and somehow I am in a worse mood now routine. The return loop. Log in, do a few pet battles, gather a little, work on a profession, maybe work toward your house, maybe do a world activity or two. Maybe fish, maybe tidy your transmog, maybe just wander and collect something small. Then log off while the game still feels good. That part matters. A lot of people do not know how to leave an MMO while they are still happy. They stay until it feels like a payroll. Do not do that. If you want WoW to feel like Pokopia, you need to protect the softness of it. And the last thing to understand is this. Playing WoW like Pokopia does not mean pretending the games are identical. They are not. Pokopia is more directly built around cozy restoration, creature friendship, utility moves, decorating, crafting, and slow life play. WoW is a bit bigger, messier, older, and absolutely capable of turning into a full-time stress occupation if you let the wrong people define it for you. But that does not make the comparison fake. That makes the comparison more interesting. Because what we are really saying is this. If what you love in Pokopia is restoring the world, bonding with creatures, building routines, collecting companions, shaping a home, and making a place feel warmer through daily effort, then yes, World of Warcraft can absolutely satisfy some of the same cravings, but only if you play it like a resident. Not a speedrunner, not a raider on deadline. Not a frightened intern trapped inside a gear calculator. A resident. Make a character you want to inhabit. Let pet battles be a real pillar of your play. Build a themed pet roster. Use professions to create rituals. Treat housing like your anchor. Treat quests like helping a place. Treat movement like part of your experience. Build a routine that feels warm instead of frantic. Do that, and WoW stops feeling like a giant exam with dragons and starts feeling like a world you are allowed to care about. And for the right player, that is a much stronger pitch than the end game gets good ever was. And that is all for tonight, dear travelers. Until next time, keep your hearth warm, your pet roster suspiciously well curated, and your idea of progress pleasantly small. This is Noktey's Tavern, and thank you for watching. Good night.